It's time for Chai and Chat. Chai and Chat.
I'm so glad we're not on video today because my background is really messy. And I thought, it's just me and Sundari, so I don't need to bother. I'm not going to put a backdrop on. It's just me. But yours is very tidy, Sundari. You're very tidy and decluttered by the looks of it.
I've adjusted it in such a way you can just see the lights in the ceiling. So isn't that wonderful?
Very good. I tried to do that. I tried to block the books, but it didn't quite work.
But before we go on to our main topic that we're going to talk about today, just have a little thing to pick. The last episode. What
did I say? What did I do?
You didn't say anything. It was me. It was my singing. You were very kind. Your feedback was lovely. But then I did listen to myself. One says one should never listen to themselves, but I did. And in the words of Nicole Scherzinger from X Factor, I need to work on my vocals, perhaps. There was a friend of mine had listened to it and she went, oh, at least you're not Florence Foster Jenkins, the woman who was meant to be the worst opera singer in the world.
I've never heard of her.
I thought I would never reach her fame because she was a socialite and very rich, but she couldn't sing. If you ever listen to her, it's like cats screeching. But she became very famous. So I won't be her, but I'll work on my vocals next time.
Well, I thought you sounded really well. And I was joking at the time saying, I was making a few jokes. In fact, I cut those out. So the listeners won't have heard that. But I was genuinely impressed because I wish I could sing.
Well, that's very kind of you. I think I sang in tune, but it was a hard song to sing. But next time I might do a Kylie and just read the words to a song.
Or next time, maybe one of our listeners could suggest an auto-tune program that we could put it through. Nobody joking again. You sounded fine, so I wouldn't worry about it. And like I think I said this before, but if I could sing, I'd be singing doing the dishes, singing doing tidying, decluttering my background maybe, and singing while I do some work. Do you sing while you work, by the way?
I sing a little bit. I do love singing in the car or in the shower because the echo makes you actually sound very nice.
Oh, that's
and maybe
true.
That's how I heard myself. Sometimes, you hear yourself in a different way.
Yeah.
But anyway, we're digressing as usual. Today we were going to talk about decluttering, weren't we, Ranjit?
Yes. So we're decluttering our mind from all these thoughts from our previous episodes as well.
Well, as we start, I've picked up a poem just to introduce the subject before we go into it. Now, this poem is... I don't know who's written it because this person has what they call a nom de plume, a pen name, Pink Fairy 5, and it's only got two stanzas, but it was just super sweet. So I'll read it for you.
That's so funny, Sundari, that you've said it's a nom de plume because Pink Fairy 5, if that was their real name, that would be hilarious. Imagine
Apologies to Pink Fairy 5. I'm sure they are lovely. Yeah.
Oh, I'm sure they are. Just as a quick aside, it reminds me when students used to send me emails using their private email accounts, and it was like Princess so-and-so, or Fab Girl so-and-so, or Beautiful this, that, the other. And it was like they just made up these names and then realised it was the professional email that they needed to use. But
oh my goodness, they were sending it to the professor. Oh dear. Never mind. I'm sure you were very, very nice to them.
Oh, I loved it. I thought it was so good. But then I was like, for your CV, you might need to choose your real name and just have a professional email account.
Well, this poem is called My Troubled, Cluttered Room. I stack it high, but don't sell it cheap. Don't sell it at all. It accumulates wall to wall, floor to ceiling, a mountain tall. The task is horrible. It zaps my energy, makes me tired. Sorting, cleaning, and throwing are things of which I am not wired. I feel exhausted in this troubled, cluttered room. I make phone calls or contract relatives using Zoom. They give me all kinds of advice on what to throw and what to keep. I don't take any of it. This mess makes me want to wail and weep. So, what does that say to you, Ranjit, about decluttering or clutter?
It gave me thoughts to begin with. I mean, that thing about piling it high and was it selling it? It just reminds me, I buy lots of things and I think, oh, well, if I won't have it, I'll sell it on eBay or something. Never do. I give a lot of stuff away to friends. I just buy them because they're bargains. And then I've got all this clutter. But I like to bring things to people's homes as well. So I always buy things and think, oh, that'd be nice to take around to someone's home.
Regifting.
not regifting, things that I've bought, and I think, oh, these are nice for people's gardens. And I know, Sundari, you have a nice garden, so wait till I come round your house. You're going to be so pleased with the things that I get you. I
I
don't know if your
might need
family
to
will.
inspect them first in before you enter the house.
They're
You
not
might need to
tacky
leave
at
it out.
all. And they're things that I'll expect to see in your garden every time I come round.
Send me photographs first. Photographs
Yes.
first.
Well, I won't be offended if you try and re-gift them to somebody else.
Oh my goodness.
So, but yeah, the cluttering thing. I mean, I every so often I go through and have a declutter. I tend to hoard a lot of things. I tend to like things, and then, but I change my mind every so often. But how about you? What's your
I
view?
think when we said we'd talk about this subject, the one thing we decided our whole raison d'etre was looking at heritage and culture. So my go-to place to start this is what in childhood has formed my or your views on collecting or hoarding. Just collecting, maybe. Hoarding is a horrid word.
Yeah,
to
hoarding
use.
sounds like it's a problematic thing.
But it's that idea of collecting. So
Yeah.
with me, it goes back to living abroad in Malaysia, and watching predominantly my grandmother, I think, using utensils, pots and pans that were never replaced. Handles were mended with strings, chipped enamel mugs were used, old aluminium pots. She hardly threw anything away, including food. I think she thought it was wasteful. I think cooked food was collected and stored in the fridge, all in pink plastic bags and Tupperware, and beware anyone going into that fridge to find something. But the idea of throwing things away was very hard. I think they grew up poor. They worked and lived on farms in Jaffna in Sri Lanka. So when they came over, she and my grandfather, they had very little money. So they had to make do mentality. They had that, really. Waste not, want not. That something might be useful in the future. And in the times when people didn't even know about recycling, I never thought it was recycling, but my grandmother was already recycling a long time ago. She paper and bottles. There was something, a man used to come around in a van going, paper lama, which means old paper, and he used to buy it for a few cents. So she was recycling in her day. The idea of throwing things away was something that they didn't think about. They just mended and kept things. What about you, your childhood with your grandmother and mother?
Yeah, that's very similar, actually. It's really strange. I mean, you talk about things like the kitchen utensils, and it made me remember when we were younger, we had a few kitchen pots and pans, and they were worn out, and you knew them, like one had a broken handle on the one side, but the other side worked. You have those pots with two handles either side, and I remember having a knife that my dad would sharpen, and it was so worn down that I love that knife because it was like really, it just fit really nicely in your hand. And, you used to chop onions with that and everything with that knife. But the end was broken off, but it still did the trick. And like you say, it was, make and men do. If it wasn't broken, it still worked. So why replace it? And I think today, I've got into this habit of just buying things, and you have those memories with things, don't you? So the memories you attach to those things, like you talk about Tupperware. I think I mentioned this on another episode that I love buying Tupperware because when we were younger, we didn't have much Tupperware, and I used to look at these things. I know it sounds weird, but for me, I used to get really excited by Tupperware or kitchen utensils or new things like that. And I think the other thing in sort of Asian culture, as I mentioned, well, South Asian culture, my parents came to the UK in the 1960s. I was born in the 70s. They both worked in factories. We didn't have a lot when we were younger. So for them, it was, if they worked for something, they're not going to throw it away. They will keep it. It might come in handy one day. My dad always used to say he had loads of things. He would keep things because he'd say one day it come in handy. And I remember he kept all these like old yogurt pots and pots. He used to like growing plants. And recently I did have a bit of a clear out at home, and I found in the cupboard some old ice cream tubs, and I'd kept them. And I know why I kept them, because I wanted to use them for maybe things that I might want to throw away, for paint mixing or something like that. But these had been there for a few years, and I thought, Ranjit, just get rid of them. Just
Mm.
get rid of these things. I put them in the recycling. Don't worry, everyone. So they didn't just throw them in the bin. And it just felt nice to have space compared to when I was younger, when we didn't have space because of all the things we were keeping in case we might need them one day. I'm not just talking kitchen things, clothes, old blankets, shoes, shoes that we didn't wear. We would just keep them. I don't know why. And then eventually they were thrown away, because they might come in handy. Somebody might want them. Somebody might need them, So there was a lot of that sort of holding on to things because they cost something, and that cost associated with it was time that somebody spent working. So I think that's what comes down to it. That's why, my parents didn't throw things away, and I still hold a bit of that. I think, and I remember a lot of my friends, relatives, if I went round to their houses, similar situation, they would hold on to things, something that was broken was still there. It was like, get rid of it.
I think for me, I've moved on a little bit, but I've moved on a little bit because of living here. So I probably don't have as many things collected. I don't want to use cluttered, collected as my grandmother used to. But going back to Malaysia, a lot of my cousins still have that mentality. I have a cousin who collects all the plastic bags, either folded or kept in another big plastic bag. And I have another cousin who collects all the newspapers.
Yeah.
These are people my age, and I think they feel a little bit on edge when I'm around because they think, oh, she's got that English mentality, and I said, oh, why do you need all these plastic bags, and why do you need this? And I'm putting them on edge. But have I moved on that much? Because for perhaps my children or some other people looking at me, they would think I'm collecting too many things. So it's all a gradation, isn't it, in that sense? I mean, how do I approach sort of that idea of decluttering? I think I held on to this idea of possessions forming memory. There's emotion and identity. That's what we're talking about. That's why we hang on to things in some ways. Plus, I have more spare money than my grandmother had and my parents had, probably. I have a better lifestyle, I suppose. And I do like clothes. I do spend money on clothes, designer clothes, but not new. I love the idea of vintage clothing. I love the idea of finding something. They're not super expensive. So I do like buying them. But once I've bought them, it's very hard to part with them. It's that idea of what if, I need it again. That idea of the clutter category, if we talk about the skinny clothing, the jeans from 10 years ago, am I going to fit into those? So we have that clutter category. And mine very much so the just in case. The just in case I go to a ball, the just in case I go to a fancy dress. Otherwise, I would be chastising myself for thinking, why did you get rid of that? You could have used that. And I've got this one, the bedside table graveyard. When I tell you what that is, you will completely agree with it. The half read books, the old lotion bottles with 3% of lotion left in it, old things that you've half used, but they all are strewn by the bedside. So there's a big collection of that. And obviously there's the big collection of books that I've read or the children have read, and the idea of getting rid of them. I'm going to start decluttering soon, and we've decluttered and decluttered, but then you reclutter. And how do you get rid of books?
I think it's like layers. Probably every summer I go through my house, top to bottom, and I go through each room and I think, right, what's that doing there? Does that need to be there? Do I need to get rid of this? And I make a decision at the time. But sometimes I look back and I think, why have I still got that? And it's like, and it was only last year that I did a decluttering. And I think this is why your mind changes. But one of the other things I do find is when I have got rid of things, guaranteed the next week I need it. And I'm like,
absolutely agree with you.
It's
Absolutely.
weird, isn't it? It's like, it's because it's in your mind, I guess. So, I mean, when I threw away those ice cream tubs, the next week we were having some work done. And one of the workmen said, oh, have you got an old tub that I can put this, it was like to mix something in. And I was like, typical, I haven't got an old tub to mix it in. So in the end, what I did do was use a nice tub, but put a plastic bag in it. So that worked in a
He did
way.
that.
Yeah. So I was able to do that.
For me, that same thing happened about 10 years ago when we did our kitchen. We decluttered and got rid of quite a few of my cookery books. I had a massive collection.
Gosh, yeah.
And one of them, a few years later, Simon went, "Oh, where's that lovely St. Michael's cookbook?" And I thought it was a book I'd had for years and had written in the book, and it was one that was given away. Do you know something? We went on Amazon and found a secondhand version of it, and I bought that.
Yeah, to buy it back.
Unbelievable. I was like, no, mustn't do that.
You mentioned that. I got rid of all my recipe books because I thought everything's online. Why keep these books? It was in a kitchen cupboard. So I was like, I haven't looked in there since pre-lockdown. I was like, I had all these books in there, cookery books, and I gave them away to people, or I sent them to the charity shop. And then you and I were having a conversation, and Jamie Oliver came into that conversation. And I was like, oh my God, I had 3 of his books that I feel bad giving them away because I could have brought them around yours. I could have brought them around yours as a gift and said, Sundari, here you go.
With me, there are 2 books I will never give away. They're ones I've used. It's Madhu Jeffrey's Indian Cooking
Yeah.
that I've had for 100 years. Delia Smith.
I kept
Oh
Delia
my
Smith.
goodness, it's falling to bits, but I love it. But this idea of the books, of novels and books that the children have read, I've messaged them and said, so darlings, what do you want mummy to do with these books? And then the eldest has come back and goes, oh mummy, I keep the Dan Brown books, keep the Harry Potter books, keep the famous 5. But if I took any of those to their place, they have nowhere to put it. So mother just keeps it in her house. So I've gone out today and bought one of those boxes, you can make them up.
Yeah.
So I've been to a self-storage place and just bought some boxes to put them all.
You know what I do, Sundari, as well? I keep on buying storage to put things in, to hide my things out of sight. And then I think, I feel happy now. I've got it all cleared up. It's all in boxes. I can't see it. But, going back to think about you saying about collecting things, and you're right, it is about memory, it's about identity. And when you said about you've got spare money now so you can buy things, we've got more money now to buy these things. So I look back when I was younger, we didn't have the money to buy those things, we had to make do. And I'm almost going back to that a little bit. Even though I've got the money, I want the money for experiences. I don't want it for things anymore. So I'm less buying things, I'm more into spending money on experiences, and having the memories with people. And it's interesting, my mom she had this thing about clothes. So she loves Indian clothes. She's got so many Indian clothes, things she never wears. She'll buy things she's not going to wear just because she likes the look of them. And she keeps them in her room.
It's hard to change habits because I'm sure I declutter and get rid of, because I have so many duplicates of things. I think, I come back home after I bought another T-shirt and I think I have another T-shirt. And I don't know why we keep doing it, but we do. So the idea is, you're right, is going through your wardrobe regularly. But I've got so many clothes that it's very difficult to go through it. I've seen tips. I've seen tips that people have said on how to declutter. And I love the one that South Asian says, the auntie tip. They go, when auntie comes in the house and goes, oh, what is this rubbish? You should get rid of it. But anybody coming into my house, because I have so many secondhand things, an Indian auntie will go, what is that rubbish? Except that I will be going, that's heritage and that's vintage, so I need to keep that. So that tip just goes out the door.
Yeah, but you've got quality things. That's the thing. Quality, heritage, probably antiques.
But I think some of my mums or friends and things wouldn't see that. Because they worked hard to buy new things, they would think that's a waste of money. Why are you buying old things? The idea is to buy new and shiny. The idea of buying new things if you had the money. So a new sari or something. And the other one was this, pass on your heirlooms. I've got lots of vintage clothing that I don't wear and I offer it to my children and they go, oh, mummy, we don't have the space. Will you keep it? So that's another tip out there. So I'm just wondering, what are the things that might be useful to remember to declutter? Definitely DVDs or VHS tapes or something like that. They need to go, don't they? Or do we still need to keep them?
Listen to this, Sundari. I've got like 3 shelving units from IKEA. iKit is great for storage, by the way. I have these stacks for DVDs. They fit perfectly. Anyway, they're in my room where everything goes that no one's allowed to see. It's got the piano in there. It's got the CDs in there. It's got.
Do you think I could have self-storage in your house? Perhaps for a tiny fee.
I'll let you see this room one day. People say, "What's in that room?" I'm like, "No one goes in there." I tidy it every so often. Anyway, there's all these CDs there, and I was going to get rid of them because, again, as I say, I go through in layers, and I always think, "Oh, leave it for next year, leave it for next year." And then this year, I thought, you know what, do something with those CDs. And then I was at an event last week. I spoke to somebody. Well, I didn't speak to somebody. They were sharing something about their love of music, and they said they don't listen to digital music. They buy CDs, and they said CDs are coming back in fashion, and they're becoming quite costly again. So I'm so glad I kept those CDs because they're coming back round. So don't throw away your CDs.
And what about DVD?
DVDs. She didn't say anything about those. I should have asked, shouldn't I? But yeah, I think you should keep them. What other things do you collect? So clothes is one. What else do you keep a lot of?
I like vintage jewellery, so I do collect those. I used to collect a lot of shoes, which I still keep, designer ones. But the old Prada and the rest of them, the Gucci shoes. But now I've got bunions, they don't fit, but I'm never going to get rid of them because I probably would still force my feet into them like the ugly sisters do in Cinderella, but just sit down. And
they look
not
nice
move.
though, don't they? You can just look at the shoe.
Wonderful. They just look wonderful. And the idea of being elevated. When I was younger, I used to wear these sorts of shoes and run around in them. And I even had a pair of Wellingtons with heels on them.
Wow.
So I loved my shoes. I love lots of pretty things, really. And we like old paintings. So there's lots of things. And I think I shared with you, I'm trying to create one of my rooms more Chinese inspired. So I've gone out and bought more old things. So now I have to exchange them. You know, the old thing about one item in, one item out, I find that really difficult.
I find that difficult. But you know, when you buy something, because some things you're not going to wear all the time. Like, let's say the clothes, you might wear it one day, and you mentioned like going to a fancy dress or a ball or something. So that thing you might not use for like 1, 2, 3 years, but the day you get rid of it, someone's going to invite you to a fancy dress party or a ball where you need that outfit. So you might as well keep it if it's not in the way.
It's not in and it'll be the only one that you can wear, despite you have 10 others. You'll be only thinking about that one. The other thing is when you're decluttering, I do this all the time. Start trying clothes on. The minute you start trying them on, 5 hours have passed and you haven't done anything. So that's a terrible tip and terrible thing. I'm saying don't do that. Just have to be strict. And the idea that people talk about keeping memorabilia in one big box, except my box has to be the size of a house, probably. That's a bit worrying.
Your house is your memorabilia box. I love that.
Well, it seems to be. I've got a lot of the children's things in memorabilia boxes, but I found it really hard to throw away little pictures they'd drawn, and they brought them home every day from school or nursery, and I found it really hard to throw them away. I know. It's that idea again. We go back to memory, emotion, and identity. Because you're identifying they are your children from their childhood as well.
Have you heard of, is it Marie Kondo?
Yes, do it the Kondo way. Say goodbye to something. I've had this. They say, if you've got a beautiful card or beautiful photograph, take a digital copy of it. I take a digital copy and then still keep it anyway. So there is no saying goodbye.
There's a difference, with a card it's different, isn't it? Because you can feel it. But I did that one year. I quite like the way of folding and having your drawers, organised like that. So I was saying to Adrian, we must fold everything like this, and he was getting so annoyed. He'd just throw it into the drawer, and I'd be taking everything out, and I'd be like, "No, fold it properly." And
I have tried that. It starts off that way, and then a week later, it just ends up as its normal way it looks. So we have good intentions. Start up with good intentions.
Well, I quite like that folding. I pocket fold things. I'll get like a towel, I'll fold it and I'll tuck it in, and I love all that. It's a bit like origami though. I quite like origami techniques, so I quite like that.
You probably could do a drawer a month then. It'd take a long time.
Yeah, but the other thing is keep everything in one place. We used to have hand soaps, like the liquid hand soap. We'd have some in the downstairs loo, some in the upstairs loo, some in the kitchen, some in the other cupboard. And I said to Adrian, why don't we just keep them all in one place? Then we know how many we've got, because when I gathered them all together, there was like 15 hand soap. We don't need that many. We just need to have a few. And so bringing things together and putting them in one place, I think, is a really good strategy. What about you?
So I think from my viewpoint, some tips that, well, I'll say these are tips and then who knows whether they end up being tips, is I'm one of those, when I do something, I like to do it all at once. This idea of doing one drawer at a time or one table, I can't do that. I'm an all or nothing kind of girl. So I think for me, deep breath, bin liners, boxes, recycling bags, bring a friend. I have a friend coming next week. She looked at me when I asked her and she went, you look like you're the sort of person I might be able to persuade to get rid of things. I said, yes, just be strict with me. And then I think make tea and let them get on with it, really.
So you're going to leave it to her?
And afterwards, the room will look wonderful. And then she'll leave things in a bag. And then maybe I'll look at the bag afterwards.
You'll start taking things back out. That's the thing. She needs to take the bag with her.
Yes, but I will be going, where's that Chanel suit I had that was made
She'll be
in
putting things in
1952?
for herself. She'll go, well, I'll take this away for you, Sundari. I'll sort this out for you. She'll be like, yeah, I like that top. I like those shoes. But, there's that thing of those parties that people do where they have clothes swapping parties, actually.
Yeah.
My sisters have done that with just in the families. So my sisters and my sister-in-law. And
I think that's a good idea because you know where it is and you can always have it back then.
True. That's a good idea, yes.
That would be my only reason I would get rid of it, is knowing I could have it back.
Yeah. I hate it when people say things like, oh, I've lost a bit of weight, so I thought you might need this now. And it's like, really?
That's a very South Asian judgy thing to say.
Yeah, South Asian people say it and they don't even realise, they sort of, or Asian people generally, I think, they just say it and they don't mean, it's that thing of going back to, spent money on it, it's worth something, I don't just want to throw it away, I'd rather someone have it. So I have to say to myself, they don't mean it in a nasty way.
People have some other tips. The one that they talk about, the reverse hanger. So if you haven't used it I've tried that, it never works because sometimes I rush in and then I try 100 different things and then they're all thrown on the bed and there is no method to it in the end.
Yeah.
But I do think in the kitchen, if I got duplicate things, because I'm not so tied to the kitchen utensils as I am to my clothes. The clothes have far more emotional and identity issues attached to them. But kitchen utensils, no.
I buy a lot of kitchen gadgets. I like to get them. And the other day I wanted something and realised I had got rid of it and given it to a charity shop.
I loved the way you said you had to stop yourself, need and want, because they're two different things. Basically, want, which is me all through and through.
Yeah, I like things like, I don't know, kitchen things. It's just all plates or new mugs. I like to have a new mug every so often. Like I get bored of mugs and I think, I don't like the shape of that mug, so I'll get a new one. Same with spoons, knives. It's a thing. I like a certain shape of a spoon. If I see a spoon, it's a certain shape. Anyway, enough of that. But going back to strategies, have you watched that program on television, How to Sort Out Your Life with Stacey
Solomon? I've seen it, but I haven't watched it because over the years, people have given me books about decluttering. Yeah. I've read podcasts. I've listened to podcasts. And we're doing it now. But read lots of things, and I end up doing the same old thing. So I haven't watched it. I'm sure I'll be entertained.
They take all your things out of your house and they put them in one big, like school sports hall or hangar, and they show everything in the zones. And they show how many things you've got, and people go in and they're quite shocked. And friends of mine have said, we're going to put you on that show so you can see all the things you've got. I'm like, it would be a nightmare.
It seems a similar concept to looking at somebody who is trying to lose weight and on the table, putting everything that they've eaten in a week and then make them feel guilty. I don't know. I just feel.
But you're right, though. Not making them feel guilty, but making them realise, because sometimes you don't realise what you're doing. Marie Kondo had this thing where you take everything out and you put it in a big pile in the middle of the room. And I've done that in one of my rooms, by the way, and it's still like that 3 weeks later because It's in the spare bedroom. I took everything out, and then I got overwhelmed.
I think the thing we have to realize is it's not, real life is not a television
No,
program. I
but I
think that's
made it.
what it
I made
is.
it worse than it is, and then I walked away from it. Every time I open that door, I'm like, "Oh, next week." And yes, I've made the situation worse by
Tomorrow,
taking everything.
tomorrow,
Yeah,
tomorrow.
and one day it will happen. But it's that pile of clothes now. There's like big pile of clothes in the middle of, well, on the bed. I think that thing of pulling everything out and looking at it and seeing it for what it is. But I think I got overwhelmed because I saw it in one big
Do you know
pile.
something, Ranjit? Just us talking, I think all we've done is made ourselves anxious about decluttering,
But
and I
you're
don't
right.
know whether we've come up with any handy tips. Just ended up making more of a clutter.
One thing I will say, and I know you're laughing, but I'm gonna say this, and it's quite serious. A couple of friends of mine both used to work in social services, and he worked in a service. I don't know what it was called, but it was for people. If somebody passes away, the local authority would come in and they would sort out all their things and the house and see what they could reclaim, and they'd keep the money to one side in case anyone ever came, like a family member, a distant family member, came to like claim rights over it. And he said it was shocking how much people kept, and it would all go in the skip. Letters they kept, cards they kept. He said it was really sad. They kept all these things for best, never used them. And he went through that process a lot. He said to me that him and his partner, they both had family members who died quite young ages, and they had to sort their homes out. So what they did was they went through their own house and they did exactly that. They got rid of all the things they'd held on to, all the things that they knew that if somebody else came in, they would just throw away. They kept some things, they had memory boxes, but they really stripped everything down. And you know what? They said they're so much happier because they just have the things they need. They don't have the things in the way. They're not worried about somebody else having to come in and deal with all their rubbish afterwards. And I started that 10 years ago and I'm still doing it.
Can I ask you one simple question? Are they South Asian?
They're not South Asian actually, but I always say that they've got very Indian ways about them.
It's because I just think it goes back to our migrant families, the idea of having very little. I think maybe the next few generations of my family might be a lot better, because I think my daughters are much better at decluttering than I am. But I still hang on to what I had from Malaysia. I think that's personally me. Yeah.
Yeah. You know those when you walk into a room and it is all tidy and it's not cluttered and it's not got the additional things that you don't need. You talked about your bedside table with the half lotions and things like that. We have this table in the bedroom and it's got so many bottles of aftershave on there, half opened. And every time we go on holiday at the airport, what do? We need to buy a new fragrance for that holiday. And I'm like, we've probably got 15 bottles that are open. Finish those off first before you open another one.
I know. There's a little bit of me, we can power ourselves down so much that we lose our identity.
Yeah.
The sort of people who, some people like it. It's very greyish the way they've decorated their homes. Whereas I'm not that. I like colour, and I like, as I said, now I'm trying to turn one room into a Chinese type room. Everything's going to be secondhand.
Yeah.
This house is, some people might say, is a little bit overcrowded, but it's only with things what I think are beautiful things. There are a lot of things that I can get rid of, a lot of my clothes, I think. I don't know, the idea is you can go overboard. We did say with this episode we would be talking a lot about clutter and recluttering.
And now we've talked ourselves into having clutter. I mean, I think the thing is, for me, I actually quite like that sense of freedom when you don't have things around. So I do like that idea, but you're right. You have to live in the space, and to live in the space, it has to be practical.
And you never know when you're going to need that Tupperware that you've thrown away, as you say, and I might need a cookbook or that dress or that ball. You see, we're talking ourselves into it.
Yes.
But I do think there are some tips that if somebody else is there encouraging you to think why you're keeping that, and if you're able to store it and you're lucky enough to have storage space, that's great. And we can't change ultimately who we are, can we? I mean, I don't think neither of us are hoarders. I think there's an issue when somebody's who's hoarding. There's obviously, as a GP, I've seen people who have hoarded, and that's unhealthy. Ours is a little more lighthearted, a little bit, but I think the idea of a memorabilia box is great, and the Marie Kondo thing is also good. So it horses for courses and what suits people, really. For me, having a friend, I like doing things with friends. Like I like doing this chat with you. I couldn't do it on my own. So having somebody to encourage you and ask you why you want that, and perhaps put it away somewhere. And if you haven't opened it and looked at it, then give it away. What's your parting gift to everybody?
I try and keep everything electronic, but I do have an area where I've got some things, and I'll put on there a date, throw away by X date, so I know, because sometimes you forget. You go, well, how long do I need to keep this for? And I know that if I don't need it by that point. I mean, the other thing I would say is, you just mentioned something that's like, if you've got the space, keep it.
I think, as you said, I'm talking myself into keeping everything, but I'm not going to, because I have done large. When I've gone through a period when I've decluttered quite a lot, but over time I've recluttered or recollected. So perhaps it's a phasic thing that we need to keep doing and be kind to ourselves. Yeah.
I think you're right. Be kind to yourself, because also if you get rid of let's say if it is a cookbook, you can get it again. It's that feeling of some things you can't get again, like a child's drawing that they've made, or something that someone's made for you. You can't get that again. So
the tips for me, I don't know what the tips are. We've had some tips and then we've gone back on ourselves. So clutter lives on, or collection lives on. I think it's like you said, don't feel stressed about it, and do what feels comfortable for you, and don't feel pressured into just having to declutter, throw things away, because I think sometimes I've done that. I felt like, one more example. I know we've gone really over time today. This is going to be a really long episode, but we're both very passionate about it. When I finished my Russian degree, and I'd lived in Russia for a while, I had collected these things whilst I was there. And when I came back, I thought, well, I don't need these things now. They were like ornaments I'd bought out there, posters, pictures, books as well. And so I had a car boot sale. Oh, that was another story for another day, doing a car boot sale, and sold all this stuff for next to nothing. But I was just finished my studies. I had no money. I look back on those things now and I think, I wish I'd kept those things, because those are things I would never get again. But I was pressured into, is because somebody in my life said to me, why are you keeping these things? Get rid of them, make some money out of it. And those are things that I miss, but everything else you can buy again. Yes.
So don't feel pressured is the thing I would say.
No, don't feel. I think we have to understand, when we make a decision about whether to keep something, there's an emotional tie to it, an identity tie to it. And if you have given it away, it's fine, it's fine anyway. And to have that, feeling of your life is full of abundance, and if you feel that way, things will come back. I think yes, true. I think that idea is great. Life is full of abundance, and it's about family and experiences. And if these things add to it, that's lovely. And if you can keep them and you're happy to keep them, that's fine. But nobody should judge each other for keeping things or not keeping things. But I'm definitely going to get rid of a few old T-shirts and old trousers that I'm not using, but not my lovely collection of lovely things. I'm going to store them away under a cloud of black covering somewhere. Well, I think
hidden away. I'll be like, what's behind that curtain, Sundari? You'll be like, you can't look.
You can't look. There goes to be some fabulous gowns there. So that's all I have to say about this matter now.
Oh, fabulous. Anyway, lovely chatting to you. I'm going to go away and do some decluttering now. You've inspired me.
Oh, bye-bye.
Catch you again soon. Bye.
Bye.
Shy and chat.